Hey, it's time for another FineScale Modeler Weekly.
Let's get started by opening some new kits.
Let's. First up, a new tool, 1/48 scale Lockheed U2R from HobbyBoss.
This version, larger than the original U2, first flew in 1967.
This kit includes the senior span radome, which allowed aircraft to transmit signal intelligence back to satellites and ground stations.
The airframe parts are marked with recessed panel lines and rivets. The lap joint at the wing root fairing is nicely done. The long, skinny wings have the same kind of surface detail. The wingtip pods with built-in skids, ailerons, and flaps are separate. The ladder and the spoilers are designed to be post-deployed, as are the air brakes on the rear fuselage.
The cockpit tub and instrument panel have molded detail, and the ejection seat closely resembles the Lockheed seat fitted to the U2R. Photo-etched brass seat belts are included. The nose is separate with a single part tip, and the underwing sensor and equipment pods have optional parts. The dorsal radome is molded in halves along with its pylon. One-piece intake lips mate with trunking to the front fan, and there is a two-part jet pipe at the other end.
Landing gear is a defining characteristic of the U2, and the kit provides a detailed main gear bay up front for the leg and wheels. There's another bay at the back with the small tail wheels and the jettisonable outrigger mount under the wings. This is a spy plane, so there are a ton of antennas that go up underneath the airframe. The canopy and windshield are separate, but there doesn't appear to be any option to pose it open. Landing and navigation lights are also on the clear tree.
The decals provide stencils and tail markings for 3 overall black U2Rs. One, 6810331, with tail art that we can't find anything about, an aircraft photographed landing at Palmdale in 2008, and a 9th reconnaissance wing plane at Beale Air Force Base.
The U2 is a good-sized plane, and it'll be more than 2 feet in span and 1 foot long when done. There's plenty of detail, so it should look nice when it's finished.
Let's move on, but stick with spy aircraft for a moment.
From Clear Prop, here's a 1/48 scale D-21A drone.
Designed in the wake of the downing of Gary Powers' U-2 over the Soviet Union, the D-21 was designed to be carried by an M-21, a modified A-12, and fly unmanned reconnaissance over hostile territory.
It worked okay until the 4th test flight when it struck the tail of the M-21, destroying both aircraft and leading to the death of a crew member.
And even after being modified to get launched from underneath the wing of a B-52, it performed 4 missions over a Chinese nuclear test site, but it never actually returned successfully with any photos.
Surface detail on the 3 parts that make up the main body consists of extremely fine recessed panel lines and rivets. The outer wings are single parts with very thin leading and trailing edges. The vertical fin is split in half.
Obviously, there's no cockpit, and internal detail is limited to the ramjet's intake center body and the exhaust section. The kit includes the aerodynamic fairings, initially fitted to the drone when it was carried by the M21. These were later removed because there was no safe way to jettison them in flight.
To display the model, the kit supplies the pylon for the M21 if you happen to want to backdate an SR-71, and a cart with a frame, cradle, axles, and wheels.
There's a clear part for the camera window, and photo-etched metal supplies fine strakes near the inner edge of the elevons.
A small decal sheet and the color diagrams give markings for the D-21 used in the first test flight from an M21. Actually, most if not all of the decals are used for the cart, not the drone itself.
This is an unusual subject and a nice kit. When it's all said and done, it's not very big and won't take up much space on your shelf, measuring only about 12 inches long. Remember in the original Ghostbusters when Ray takes a 1959 Cadillac Miller Meteor and transforms it into the Ghostbusters ride?
Well, Round 2 has taken the tooling in its stable of brands and turned the AMT Ghostbusters Ecto-1 into a 1/25th scale ambulance. Changes include modifying the body to fill attachments for the Ecto-1 equipment rack and adding holes for the ambulance lights, removing some ghost-busting equipment from the rear, and replacing it with a medical supply cabinet and a gurney with chrome-plated sides and handles. The front grille and wheels have also been altered for the ambulance. There are also optional chrome ambulance light housings for the roof, mirrors, antenna, and tail fin trim.
The narrow rubber tires get white wall inserts. The one-piece window insert includes all of the lights from the Ecto-1 kit, belying this release's origins. Clear Red supplies the bullet tail lights, lenses for the optional roof lights, and a beacon. The decals provide dash details, badging, license plates, and a choice of styles for the lettering for ambulances from the city of Troy, Michigan, we presume. 2 types of markings are given for the frosted windows around the rear.
This is a neat way to redress an existing subject, and it should be popular with fans of emergency vehicles.
Look for a review of the Cadillac, the U2, and the D21 on FineScale.com soon. And while you're there, go ahead and check out all of our how-to stories, videos, other reviews, show galleries, and so much more.
We post daily, so check it out.
FineScale Modeler Weekly, brought to you by Hobby Zone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard-to-find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs.
And by Cult TV Man's Hobby Shop, your place to go for science fiction and fantasy kits, decals, accessories, details, and more.
A couple weeks ago, we were talking about photo-etched metal parts, and, well, in particular, I mentioned that over my Christmas vacation, I built some metal earth, photo-etched metal, actually stainless steel, kits, and many of you came in and commented about how you felt about photo-etched metal parts in kits, the challenges that you face with them. Some of you really like them, some of them don't like them at all, and I got messaging back and forth with a few of you. And I thought, you know what, this would be a great time to come in and talk about some of the tools that I have at my workbench to help me build photo-etched metal parts. So let's get into it. So how to separate your photo-etched metal part from the photo-etched metal fret. Now, there are a few different ways that you can go, and I'm going to show you what those are and then what my favorite one is. You can use a hobby knife. I've done that in the past with a number 11 blade. Aaron likes to use a number 10, which is curved. We've talked about those in previous episodes. Curved blade because he likes to sort of use the rocking motion to get a clean cut. I don't particularly like using a blade because I don't like dulling my hobby knives, especially if I'm going to use them for something else. So if I'm doing work with photo etch and then I set the knife aside and I come back and I do something else and I pick that knife up and now it's just not sharp and ready to go, so now I'm swapping blades, blah. I would rather, if I'm going to use a knife, and sometimes a knife is the preferred method, I would rather come in and use a utility knife because I'm not going to be doing any fine cuts with this. The utility knife is exactly the perfect knife for it because it's utility, so I'm not worried about dulling it. My preferred method, actually, though, is these purpose-built Xuron photo-etched metal snips. They're extremely sharp, very pointed, and they are designed specifically for taking photo-etched metal parts out of a fret. They do take a little bit of getting used to, but once you do know how to use them, you can get really nice, clean cuts with them. Aaron doesn't like them because he thinks that they twist the part and he doesn't get as clean a cut as he can get with using a number 10 blade. If a blade works better for you, don't worry about it. Then use a blade. If you prefer these, then go ahead and pick those up and use those. Having a variety at your disposal, I like having the tools around and picking and choosing, according to my need. Regardless of how you end up separating the photo-etched metal part from the fret, I always have a flat metal file to go ahead and take any nubs down that might remain. I do not like using coarse grit sanding pads or sanding files just because the metal tears them up something fierce, and I find that a nice flat metal file, they are the perfect choice for making sure that you get that nub down and the area is completely smooth. For shaping basic photo-etched metal parts, I turn to 2 tools. Both of them are smooth-jawed pliers. You can see this one here has a slight taper down to a rounded, narrow end. And then this one here is slightly tapered, but then basically down to a 90-degree end there, nice and flat. With both of them, what's good about it is you can go ahead and you put that part in there clamp the jaws down, and then you can just bend along the score line. And then with these nice narrow ends, what you can do is you can fit it inside a part as it starts to build up and become three-dimensional. You can fit them inside and easily bend along score lines there. What this allows you to do is just basically have a couple of choices for versatility when bending. Another tool at the workbench that I have for bending photo-etched metal is this photo-etched metal bending tool, specifically designed for doing that. Now, I don't use it as often as I do the pliers, just because the pliers are often quicker, but this tool is, as I say, specifically designed for bending photo-etched metal. Now, how does this work? This part up here is separate from the base, and you loosen it and then fit your photo-etched metal part underneath one of these jaws, whatever jaw that best fits the shape of your photo-etched metal part. Once that is aligned underneath the jaw and the score line on the part is aligned with the score line in the table here, you tighten this all back down, and then you bring in either one of these paddles if it's supplied with your table, or a single-edged razor blade works really well too. You slide the paddle in underneath the part and then you bend up. It's that easy. You loosen it, you can take the part out, turn it, and then reposition it under one of these jaws, whatever best fits that part, and then repeat the process until the photo-etched metal part is complete. If you have a longer piece, say a tank fender that you need to bend, what you can do is you can loosen this part here, this top part, turn it around completely so that this edge goes along this score line in the table here, tighten it back down, put your long piece, position it correctly, tighten it down, and then bring in like a metal straight edge that fits along the entire piece, put that under there, and then go ahead and bend it up. What's really nice about this is that it is purpose designed to help you shape photo-etched metal. Now you say, well, Tim, that's all well and good if all of the parts that I am shaping, all the photo-etched metal parts I'm shaping, have straight edges, right? Just bending the folds. Well, what if I need to do a curve? Okay, well, a few options. First, if you want to do a curve, the easiest thing is if you have a drill index, is to go grab that and then get a drill bit that is approximately the size of the curve that you want to bend, and bend your photo-etched metal part around the shank of that drill bit. Easy. Almost all of us have drill bits sitting around. The challenge is, do you have the right size? Now, if you want something a little bit more purposed toward bending your photo-etched metal, you might decide then to go and pick up a metric drill bit set, right? Because the truth is that a lot of our kits that have photo-etched metal in them are they're manufactured overseas, and they use the metric system. So you can go and you can pick up yourself a $15 set of metric drill bits that'll range from like 1.5 to 6.5 millimeters in diameter, and there's probably going to be a shank in there that's going to work well for your particular shape in your kit. If you want to go to something that is even more purpose-built for shaping photo-etched metal, you can get something like this rolling set. This one happens to be from Display, but Green Stuff World, UMM, and a number of other places also make these. And what it is essentially for this one, an anodized aluminum base that has a number of troughs in it, and then these bars. And this one ranges from 4 millimeter to 16 millimeter. And what you do is you can take this bar out and start to wrap your photo-etched metal part around it, start shaping it around it, and then you're probably going to have to clear off some space to either side of where the matching trough is. But then you push the bar with the photo-etched metal in between it and the trough back down into the trough, and that there helps you make a nice, clean curve. Now, if you're just making a U shape and that's all you just have your photo etch metal then sticking up and that's all you need to do, well, then you're done. If you need to actually bend that photo etch metal all the way around, then you're gonna have to do a little bit more work, right? And you can just continue to push the photo etch metal part back down into that trough, work your way around until the part goes cleanly all the way around, and then you just slide it off. Nice, easy, simply done, and purpose built. There is another option too, and that is what I call a mandrel. Other people call it a stepped, wire shaper. In any case, you can use this to shape curves into a photo etch metal part too. Just remember that something like this, you're going to be limited on the size of that photo etch metal part, just because those steps, they're only about maybe 1/4 of an inch wide. However, before you start making those curved shapes in your photo etch metal part, there's probably another step that you're going to want to take. When trying to shape photo etch metal into a curve, you're going to find that it's pretty springy. You'll shape it and then it won't hold the curve as well as you want it to. So what you need to do is you need to anneal it. For me, I have 2 tools at my workbench for annealing photo etch metal. I have a hot plate and then I have a hand torch. The hot plate I use for annealing smaller, finer photo etch metal parts that I need to shape into a curve. Often I'll use it for doing seat belts and those sorts of things. You do not want to use the hand torch with those fine metal parts because the torch will just light them up. It gets too hot too fast and you can actually set your metal on fire. So with the hot plate, what I'll do is I'll turn it all the way up to its highest setting, wait until these coils are cherry red, and then using a pliers that don't have any marks or grooves in them, right? Smooth pliers, hold that part onto the coil until it too turns cherry red. If the part is thicker, heavier, heftier, and I'm not afraid that it's going to go up in flame, that's when I will employ the torch here. Let's just turn it on just because, oh, there it is. Yeah, see, just like that. And then I just go along the part, all over the part until the part itself turns cherry red, then I let it cool. So those are what I use to anneal the parts. Then once they're cool, I'll go and I'll put the curved shape into them. Those are the tools that I have at my disposal at my workbench to help me shape photo etch metal parts. You might have some other ones, different ones, and different experiences, but these help me do the job. I don't go out of my way to look for photo etch metal parts, but I don't find them particularly onerous either. We do have a series of Scale Model Basics videos about painting, shaping, and building photo etch metal parts, and you can find those in the links below.
Do you like car models and want to be inspired? We've got you covered with Contest Cars 2023 available now. You can order your copy directly from combackhobbystore.com or find it at your favorite hobby store, bookstore, or newsstand. If you're like me, figure modeling can be a bit bewildering, but we've got some help in the form of Paint award-winning figures. This special issue features 11 projects from high-caliber modelers like Matt Mrozik, Joe Hudson, Brian Wildfong, and the most recent winner of the Gunpla Builders World Cup, Simon Lamb. It goes on sale in March, but you can pre-order your copy today at combackhobbystore.com. Do you like what you see here and want more? Subscribe to FineScale Modeler magazine. You'll get 6 issues a year crammed with how-to stories from some of the best modelers around the world. Go to finescale.com/YouTube for a special offer for YouTube viewers like you. You and I were talking the other day because we were looking through some new releases for kits that companies have announced for 2024, and amongst them are some new licenses. And by licenses, we mean companies licensing with popular culture lines or movies or TV shows to bring kits out that relate to those. And there are some licenses that have been announced from a couple companies that we've never seen kits of before. Stranger Things was one, World of Warcraft was another one. And that was a real surprise because I don't think we've seen anything from World of Warcraft before. Or anything.
Not in model kits, not like that.
No, maybe some action figures or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But, not model kits. So to see a mainstream model company coming out with those kind of kits was interesting. And it's not the first time we've seen it. Obviously, licensing goes back to the days of models past when Aurora was doing the Universal Monsters series and stuff like that. So it's always been a part of modeling. But to see companies looking at new licenses as a way to generate sales or to maybe hook into a market that they believe exists that they haven't tapped into before.
It's always about audience acquisition.
Right.
I mean, that's really the whole thing is about not only still being able to serve the audience that you have, but then get new people coming in and buying your products. I mean, for the longest time, the two big licenses that I can really remember are, we're talking about Star Wars and Star Trek, right? And then, you know, who's got what and, you know, this, that, and the other thing. We just, last week, we looked at the 3 Dune kits from Meng.
Right.
And Meng licensed, they did a Transformers license, last year or the last couple of years. We've seen a lot of that kind of licensing, especially on like the mech side, right? There's Flame, and some other companies out there that are doing those big tentpole movie licenses. Of course, Bandai has all those licenses that it owns, right? I mean, it doesn't really, it's sort of licensing to itself.
It's convenient.
So, you know, for a long time, I remember having a conversation with former president of Revell, Lou Aguilera, and I told him that Rocket League would be a really cool license for Revell or some model company who has car models as its base to pick up. Because, I mean, if you've ever played Rocket League, you're basically playing soccer with cars. You know, the physics are completely unrealistic, but it's a lot of fun, and you get to modify your car in the game. And I thought, you know, there's some potential there. I think the risk with the licensing, and this is something that we used to talk about with Frank Winsper all the time. There are a couple of things actually, and that is how long it takes to get those licenses, and everybody's looking for their best advantage. Right? Everybody wants to be able to make money out of it, especially the people who have the license. So if you're going to go to Rocket League, or if you're going to go to Universal or Warner Brothers or whoever, they want their cut, and they are not cheap. No. I mean, Lucasfilm is not, Star Wars is not a cheap license. It is not cheap. Believe us, we've looked into it. You know, that's one aspect of it, because you want to make sure that you're making money, and that the audience acquisition side of it is going to pay off for you. But the other side of it is that audience acquisition. How do you handle that license?
Right. And I think that's an important thing. I mean, the making money part, and the world's strewn with model kits that came out for licenses that the movie did not, or the franchise did not do well. The classic example is Revell doing the Dune license back for the 1984 Dune movie, which did not do extremely well at the box office. And actually, the ornithopter from that is on my Grail list, but because it's very hard to find.
See, that's something different. The collector market is a different thing entirely.
And I wasn't going to that, but my point is that the reason those are collector's kits now is because that license did not do well for Revell, so those kits only came out one time and they disappeared. Because that was a gamble, because they wanted to be ahead of the curve, and the problem with being ahead of the curve is that you risk it not working the way you need it to. The other risk, as you say, is handling that license correctly. And I think you and I have talked about video games being a potential audience acquisition, because you've got vehicles or characters or whatever that people are interested in. They play them, they drive them. And they might want, it's a way to go, okay, now I can, just like when I build an X-Wing, it connects me to my fandom for Star Wars. If I build a Warthog from Halo, it's connecting me to the joy I get out of playing that video game.
Right. I think it's a good example that you bring up. You bring up the Revell Dune thing, because Revell then did the Halo license back in 2017, 2018 is when those products came out, I think. And you know, this is backseat driving and Monday morning quarterbacking or whatever. But you know, I look at that and I go, okay, this is the Halo license. Now, sure, there are 10-year-olds that are playing Halo. I think it was specifically for Halo 5 that license was for. There are kids that at the time, they're 10, they're playing Halo. Great. But the core audience for that video game was going to be your teens through your mid-20s. And when you look at the two products that came out, there was the Pelican, which is a plane, and then the Warthog, which is this 4-wheel drive, Jeep looking thing. They were very much toy-like. And I don't think we never saw any for review here, and I don't think either of us have actually seen them in the flesh.
No.
But looking at the kits of what you can see of them online, and speaking of collector value, I think that Pelican's going for like more than $100 now. Anyway, the point being is that they were very much they had 53 snap together parts. I think the one is the Warthog. And they looked very toy-like, and they weren't particularly detailed. And the last thing that a teen is going to want is to have something that's going to make them feel sketchy or look sketch to their friends or their peer group, right? And having this toy, that's not. And then on the other hand, that's not necessarily going to attract like somebody like us.
Right.
Even though I might look at it and go, well, it's cool that they got that license. It's not going to be me going out and building that, even though I really like Halo. Right? It's not going to attract a more, I don't want to say hardcore builder, because I don't look at myself like that, but a more experienced or veteran builder. So I'm not sure how they could have managed that better, and I'm not trying to piss anyone off, but it's just that you have to be careful about how you handle those licenses and who are you targeting and trying to bring in.
As you said, nobody likes to be talked down to or treated
exactly
like a kid when they're wanting to be treated, and as you can speak to, teenagers like to be treated like adults.
Yes. Well, it was one of those things that we learned with role-playing games. When I was in the role-playing game industry, you get how you get the 12, 13, 14-year-olds to play your game is to present them with something that looks like it is forbidden or that it is something more adult-y than what it actually is, right? So they feel like they're being accepted into part of this more adult group.
We don't want to get into adult models because that's a whole
No,
other
that's a whole
ballgame.
other thing. I'm not looking at that. But you know what
I know what you're saying, yes.
You get what I'm going at. And that is,
they want
you're
to be
presenting it in a way where it makes them feel more mature.
Right.
It makes them, you aren't talking down to them. You are bringing them into something that's cool.
Right.
And that cool thing then would just, by the same token, appeal to the older crowd anyway.
Right. And one of the things that you know when you start getting into the video game world in particular is that there are people who take it very seriously.
Very.
Halo is
Esports
one.
is huge.
World of Warcraft, for some people, World of Warcraft is a huge thing in their lives. So.
And there are so many. League of Legends, which also has a spin-off show on Netflix, right? So there's League of Legends, there's Dota, there's Overwatch. There are so many of these things that could possibly spawn a lot of really cool model figures, model vehicles, model weapons, just a lot of neat things. It's just, again, how do you present it? How do you go after it? And obviously, again, there's the cost side of it too, and then maintaining it and going forward. I think there's a huge potential. There's so much cool pop culture stuff out there. I would love to see more, but it's. I hope the companies are starting to now see that this is something that they can reach into and that they can do it. It's just that I want them to succeed, so hopefully they do it correctly.
And it'd be interested to see what, like, particularly the World of Warcraft kits look like when we see them in the flesh. Are they,
Yeah, what are they going to do with them, right? And I figure they have to be figures, but
that would make the most sense. What scale are they?
Right,
what material are they made of? How are they presented?
so I think it'll be. I think it's cool. I think we live in a really cool time for models. So hopefully we're going to see some really neat stuff here in 2024 with these licenses.
Yes.
What kind of licenses would you like to see model companies pick up? And for those licenses, what kind of kits, scale, and subject, etc., would you like to see from those licenses?
Let us know in the comments or email us at editor@finescale.com.
You got it. Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Kit provides a detailed main
I like it as a detailed mean gear.
Yes, we got this.
You got this.
This is a neat way to redress an existing.
We don't got this. For basic bending of photo etch metal parts, I basically basic. You basic. I find that both of these, they work really well, and I like the choice. I don't know. This kit includes for shaping basic photo etch metal parts.
As soon as I read it, I'm like forgetting it.
I know that feeling. Third time. Hopefully this is. We'll see. Let's do it again. For shaping basic photo. Stop it!
I'm laughing because you're laughing.